Appreciate it.
Sure.
America's Pacific allies are also working to manage security concerns after President Trump scaled back joint military drills with South Korea. The shift in policy comes as Trump attempts to rekindle diplomacy with North Korea. Rich Edson has the details.
I know Kim Jong Un very well, and he's going to be fine. As long as we have a smart president.
Like in his first term, President Trump is pushing to engage with North Korean dictator Kim Jong Un. The Pentagon confirmed Wednesday the annual U.S.-South Korea military exercises will end 6 days early, following the president's order to substantially scale them back. The president has called the exercises costly and cited his personal relationship with Kim Jong Un.
I get along with him, and you know what? The fact that I get along with him, that's a good thing, not a bad thing. He has 57 very powerful nuclear weapons.
The president also linked his decision to South Korea's refusal to support the U.S. effort against Iran. Seoul is now suggesting it could become involved in the Middle East if it means shoring up American military support back home.
We are in close consultations with the United States regarding possible substantive and military contributions.
North Korea said Wednesday it still sees the scaled-back drills as a provocation and denied any contact between Trump and Kim. But the sudden change for the Trump administration is raising new questions about the future of the U.S. security commitment.
Obviously, what the United States does is a matter for it. Australia is very concerned about North Korea's nuclear program as well as its missile program.
President Trump said Wednesday he expects to meet face-to-face with Kim Jong Un later this year. In Washington, Rich Edson, Fox News.
Rich Edson, thank you. The U.S. and South Korea, as we mentioned, wrapping up those annual joint military drills on Friday. Now President Trump is speaking very positively about his relationship with North Korean dictator Kim Jong Un. Listen.
But I do have a good relationship with Kim Jong Un. As you know, you've seen. He didn't like Biden. He didn't like Obama. He didn't like anybody, but he likes me. And I get along with him very well.
Are you expecting to meet with him later this year?
Yeah, I will be.
All right, let's bring in Victoria Coach. She is one of she's the Vice President of National Security at the Heritage Foundation, also former Deputy National Security Advisor to President Trump. Thank you so much for joining us. I want to get your insight on these very interesting developments regarding South Korea, North Korea, what the future holds, and your thoughts on the president scaling back these exercises. I do want to take a quick listen a little bit more from the president. He sort of explains why this decision was made. Take a listen.
I didn't like the fact that we're doing these massive military exercises really against North Korea. I was not happy when South Korea said, no, they're not interested in helping us with the Hormuz Strait, and yet they get 60% of their oil from the Hormuz Strait. I said, would you like to help us? He said, no, thank you. I didn't like that. So I felt that to do we were doing a massive war exercise. I thought that was very insulting to somebody that, frankly, has been, during my term at least, very well behaved.
So he sort of explains the abbreviated exercises in very plain terms. I wanted to get your thoughts on this decision that he has made, why he made it. What do you think?
Well, Molly, great to see you. I think that this is a very important strategic step by President Trump to sort of recalibrate the relationship, the alliance between the United States and South Korea, which is a very, very important alliance. Of course, they're a powerful country, a big manufacturing base, and a great trade and technology partner to the United States. So we want to have a good relationship with them. But at the same time, this is not South Korea of 50 years ago, reeling from the Korean War, in mortal terror of what might happen from the North. They have developed fully into, as I said, a very powerful ally to the United States. We need them to step up and start taking more agency for their own security. This is very similar to the message the president has sent our NATO allies in Europe, that we have global considerations. We will stand with you, but we can't do everything. And I think it was a real problem when President Young refused to send any demining help to the Strait of Hormuz, given what the United States has expended on South Korea's defenses for these many years, and the fact that they are so dependent on the oil from the Gulf, which we are not.
And NATO did step up as a result of the president's strategy to a much larger extent. When we look forward, the president promising to meet with Kim Jong Un again, it was historic when it happened previously. What do you make of that? Do you think it's a good idea? What do you think it means for South Korea?
I mean, President Trump uniquely deploys personal diplomacy in these relationships, and he doesn't put much stock in kind of the traditional conventional wisdom that, oh, you can't dignify Kim with a meeting. Well, no, for the reason the president laid out, because of those nuclear weapons, he needs to keep peace on the Korean Peninsula. A nuclear conflict on that peninsula would be the worst thing for human rights that we could possibly imagine. So, as I said, this is the unique ability he has to deploy these personal relationships, and I think it's very appropriate that he should leverage it to, further a goal of denuclearizing the peninsula.
Yep. And I want to shift now to Iran, because there are major economic threats now that the U.S. is making towards Iran, calling it economic D-Day to come. Of course, there have been U.S. sanctions for some 5 decades on Iran, but this administration saying that this is going to be different, that this is sort of the next level, the next obvious step. Here's U.S. Ambassador to NATO Matt Whitaker explaining.
All the military objectives have been accomplished. Have taken out their conventional military. Their Navy is at the bottom of the strait. This is the obvious next step, and it doesn't lend itself to a kind of daily tick-tock or a horse race, view of this situation. The report did say that the economic sanctions are already working, the blockade is working, and we're going to continue to do what's necessary to get an obvious resolution of this conflict.
I guess the question is, will these super sanctions have an impact on Iran? Will they be enough to change the tide or bring them back to the negotiating table?
Oh, I think they will, and they are literally supersized because of the actions that have been taken. And going back to President Trump's first term with the maximum pressure campaign that did systemic damage to the Iranian economy, but that was not fixed, even under the relief they got from President Biden, who stopped enforcing the sanctions, tried to pay them to get back in the nuclear deal. They were happy to take the pay. They didn't get back in the nuclear deal. But that was not invested in their economy. It was spent on October 7th. It was spent on the IRGC and the nuclear program. So the problems are now considerably worse. We had bank failures last year because of what happened to them when we started reinforcing the sanctions. And that's about to get worse because of Operation Epic Fury, because the president was willing, as Ambassador Whitaker said, to do all that military damage to the country. Now they can't recover. And their economy minister, Madanizadeh, said today that they're going to start imposing strict new standards on their financial institutions, and anybody who doesn't adhere to them is going to be disbanded. And that sounds to me like they're preparing for systematic failure under these new sanctions.
Victoria Coates, thank you. You are greatly appreciated. We appreciate your insight on this as it continues forward. Thank you.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube, and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.